Skip and Loafer is on my, it's not that highly rated.
Really?
That's on my list. I'll get to my big list.
Okay, we'll get there later. So we'll get to
I don't have a big list. I'm going to make a big
Charlie's
list.
list of mid.
List of mid, they're all good.
Charlie's list of mid.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Gateway to Anime. How are you all? What's going on? We are the podcast where we try and throw open the gates to anime, whether you're a new fan, an old fan, a returning fan, or someone who's just interested in anime, ever wanted to get into it, didn't know where to start. We're the podcast for you, but if you're a big fan, we'll also cater to your whims and needs as well. Charlie, how you going?
Good. I'm excited because we're going to talk about something pretty fun in this episode today, and we're probably going to have a couple of debates, and I think it's going to be a pretty just all around pretty casual, pretty chill episode, and I think it's going to be fun.
We are, of course, talking about underrated anime. Now, we have a criteria for this, but before I do that, I want to bring in Graham. How are
thanks.
my
I
friends?
thought I was getting
Yeah,
left.
yeah, yeah.
I was like,
Speaking of underrated.
Speaking of underrated.
It's just underrated third member. It's fine. It's fine. I
See,
get
it's on
it.
brand. It's on brand.
Yeah.
On brand.
Yeah. That's my mouse score.
What is your mouse score? Your popularity is not great,
Oh,
but
shit.
you're rated highly.
Okay, sweet. That's okay. I'll take it.
So, yes, we're going to talk about shows that are underrated. Now, this is, I can already foresee comments coming already, be like, it's not underrated. But Charlie, why don't you explain the criteria? It's arbitrary. Obviously, this is arbitrary. But Charlie, do you want to explain the criteria that you implemented for this?
Well, because often when we're talking about anime just in our own time, we're always like, it's underrated, this show, and then we'll go on, it'll be like, number 3 on Mal, or I'll be like, it's award-winning and everyone loves it, and it's never been underrated in its life. So I was saying I wanted to do an episode about underrated anime, so we can talk about some of the stuff that doesn't usually get talked about, or things that have been living in our memory from childhood that we're like, was it actually good or not? Let's watch that and see if it is actually underrated, or whether it was just made better by nostalgia, which a lot of things are.
True.
But the rules are that the My Anime List ranking, and that is the overall ranking. So on the anime list, one has to be at least under 200 and the other one at least under 500. Now, since I made those rules and I've gone on and looked, I think even there's just, okay, first of all, I don't know if you know this, there's so much anime.
That's a lot.
Wow, dude.
I know that, obviously, as someone who talks about anime often and spends a lot of my time on My Anime List. And
Do you know if there's more than 10 animes?
But when you're scrolling through, I'm like, wow, Naruto's number 380. I'm like, so really, according to our list, that qualifies. But
We're not going to bring that up, don't worry.
What we have actually done is looked at also the popularity ranking, which is just how many people have voted for it, basically, over the course. And we're using My Anime List, so it's not the perfect list. And obviously, we've kind of taken on ourselves to be like, do we actually think this is underrated? But that's just a vague parameter, so we're not going to be talking about hugely popular things. And it's just a bit of fun,
Yeah, things might have gone through the keeper. Some of these shows we have talked about on this show before, but many of these have not been talked about. But My Anime List, for those of you who don't know as well, is kind of the IMDb of Western anime fandom. So you can go and rank all your, you can go and look at all you've seen and sort of create a profile, log all the shows that you've seen, rate those shows. So yeah, there's a rating list on My Anime, like IMDb. It'll be like, this has got a 7.6 or whatever. Then it will have its ranked number, where it's all as far as its ranked level is concerned with those who've put in votes. And then, yeah, as Charlotte said, the popularity vote, of course, is just how many people have voted for it. So that is what My Anime List is. If you don't know what My Anime List is, it's a really good little website to actually go on and just give you a good idea of what to watch. It's always good for seasonal animes. We get a lot of our information from there. Some really good critics, fans who put in critiques and whatnot. So it gives you a good vibe of a show if you're looking.
Yeah. Also, sometimes the reviews are really funny.
Oh, they're cooked.
So it's a good, it's a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time.
Also, My Anime List causes a lot of drama in the anime community, though, because people are very protective over their shows remaining number 1 spot or in the top 10. So they'll review bomb. Same with IMDb, though. It's all any kind of we can't have nice things because people will find a way. But it is a really great resource. So we recommend you check out myanimelist.com, Mal for short.
Sponsor us if you feel like it.
Mal?
Yeah.
I think they're good.
Who knows? All right, well, what do you kick off? What's an underrated anime that you've watched that is not well received on Mal or generally talked about in the community? What do we got? Who wants to kick it off?
I'll kick it off. So one thing that I found, and I knew this was going to be the case, because you gotta like shoujo and josei are just two genres that are highly underrated in general, I think, and they don't have as much popularity. So a lot of my favorite shows, I was just like, oh yeah, this all fits into this qualifier, you know? So I would like to start with one that I really love that. And again, I watched this when I was really young and I'm worried it's aged badly. But, you know, it is an interesting coming of age story by the same mangaka as Nana, which is rated very highly. So I couldn't do that one.
More famous josei.
And I've talked about that. I reckon my first episode I talked about Nana.
You did.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's still one of my favorite shows ever. If you want to know more about Nana, please go and check it out, look it up. I won't talk about it now because it is definitely not underrated. But this show, it fits in with the parameters, and I would say Paradise Kiss currently sits at rank 842 with a popularity rank of 1,057.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I have got the synopsis here. So it is top high school student seeks some purpose in life. A group of fashion design students ask her to be the front model for their clothing label, Paradise Kiss. Although she finds them weird, she accepts and soon blossoms as a person. So this show is very much about finding yourself coming of age. We're dealing with a high school student who feels very, very lost, as I said, who is always studying, but she doesn't feel her family are quite strict. She doesn't know what to do, but she's also very tall. And so when this group of fashion students who go to the local college, she's in high school, they're in college, they are like, you're perfect to be our model and they want you to be a muse. And then she decides to pursue a career in modeling based on this. Along with the Paradise Kiss label, the group that run it are all kind of a bit of a, what am I trying to say? Motley crew of disparate quirky, disparate group, family kind of thing. And it's just like, I'm not sure it's it's probably not as, it's not as good as Nana, I don't think, but it's the same style of drawing. So very cool fashion, very awesome. And the fashion looks great. The characters are good. And it is just like so much drama. Like the drama in this show is a lot. It's like a soap opera, but they're all sleeping with each other and they all break up and then blah, blah. Like it's all kind of stuff that you don't usually see in anime, really.
It's a josei, right?
Yeah, it's josei. I would say it's like shoujo josei, but yeah, it's definitely more josei. It's a bit more adult themes in there. It's about finding yourself. There is some really toxic, similar to Nana, there are some toxic relationships in this show. So content warning for that, particularly between the main character and the head designer, George. I remember him being a fucking asshole. But, it was interesting to watch and read. I actually read the manga too. But yeah, the animation is good. I think it's underrated. I think it deserves a spot on this list. It is quite famous. So people watching it will be like, Charlie, that's fucking famous. But I'm like, no, it fits in the parameters and I don't think people talk about it very often.
See, now this is the point. Now, there are going to be fans out there who are deeper into the reads than us. We're going to come out with these are all fucking normie choices. Well, the parameters have been set and this is what we're going through. It is an underrated show, 100%. You know what else is an underrated show? Is a little show called Paranoia Agent. Now, this has a MAL score of 7.67. It's ranked 1,242 and its popularity is 542. So it's slightly more popular, but I'm surprised at the low ranking actually. I guess it's quite divisive, but I'll explain. So this is directed and created by the legendary Satoshi Kon, of course. Perfect Blue, Paprika, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, famously one of the best and most prominent rising star directors in all of anime, and he died tragically in his early 40s of pancreatic cancer, and the world lost a visionary. It's incredibly depressing. We will do a full episode on Satoshi Kon. I've talked about Perfect Blue before on this podcast in our anime movie episode, but Satoshi Kon really was something very special. But this is the only series he ever did, and it was produced by Madhouse. Of course, we did almost all of his work. Maruyama, the founder of Madhouse, was a huge Satoshi Kon fan and championed him. But
what year did this come out?
Show came out in 2004. So pretty old, which maybe is why I think it's been forgotten to time, but it's really fascinating. It's classic Satoshi Kon, but I'll give you what it's about. So it's a psychological thriller. And again, the only series that Kon ever made in his life. He was much more of a movie guy. But the show centers around Shonen Bat, or Little Slugger, who terrorizes the residents of Musashino City. He's a young kid around the age of 12 who flies around on his rollerblades, attacking people with his golden baseball bat. He's impossible to catch, and his motives are impossible to understand. His first victim is a famous yet reclusive character designer, like a manga artist, called Tsukiko Sagi, and she is suspected of orchestrating the attacks. But she's believed only by her anthropomorphic pink stuffed animal Moromi, classic Satoshi Kon. Tsukiko is just one of Shonen Bat's initial victims, but as Shonen Bat continues his relentless assault on the town, detectives Keiichi Ikari and Mitsuhiro Maniwa try to investigate the identity of Shonen Bat. However, as more and more victims begin to pile up, news of the assailant begins circulating around the town. Paranoia starts to spread insidiously throughout the town and its residents. So this is classic Satoshi Kon that's very weird. It's very unsettling. It's very it's sort of like, yeah, it's the whole thing has this real air of like dread, paranoia even, to the whole thing, which is quite brilliant, and it's very experimental. And I think for a lot of people might have found it a bit too experimental because it's very off kilter. But it's all about how people's fears and paranoias can seep out of themselves and through a community, and how people can sort of all start to believe a shared narrative or a shared myth even amongst themselves just through hearing it. So like how an urban myth might gain traction, and it's kind of all about, without spoiling anything, that's what it's all about. So it's a very cerebral exercise in how humans operate together and how shared fears and anxieties can sometimes be spread without any shred of evidence really being given. So it's a fucking great, really interesting show. And I think it is criminally underrated given those rankings. I mean, popularity is quite high, but I still think it's underappreciated, and I think it gets left behind a lot by his films, by Satoshi Kon's films. But I think Paranoia Agent, I mean, again, we'll talk further about Satoshi Kon in another episode with a very special guest. But until then, Paranoia Agent, check it out.
Yeah, sweet.
2004.
Old, man.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these, and obviously recency bias
Yes.
is going to be a thing
Yeah,
on this
totally,
list, because
totally.
like Paradise Kiss is 2005.
Yeah.
So you know, like it's kind of one of those things where you gotta take account of that. But yes, I'm glad we get to talk about these things because they are very well worth watching.
Yeah, and we're showing our age. You know,
Oh yeah, all these
Hell
are
yeah.
like my favorite.
One of the benefits of watching anime for 25 years is that we've got a couple in the bank that have even we've forgotten. Like, during this episode, it was funny. Like, I was like, underrated anime, shit. And then we're going back through all these things. I'm like, oh, fuck. Those shows that I watched.
Yeah.
I know,
I
it's
just
been like an
completely forgot.
absolute nostalgia hit. I've got an honorable mentions list, and it's quite funny.
Extensive.
Yeah.
All right, Graham, what do you got?
I've got one of my favorites coming of age when I was a young man in 2011.
Yeah.
I was not a young man in 2011. Ranked 1,824 with a rating of 7.49 with 1.3 million users.
Wow.
It's Blue Exorcist.
Blue Exorcist.
Blue Exorcist. I don't think anyone talks about Blue Exorcist anymore.
You're right.
To me, it's in the same field as D Grey Man. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
D. Grey Man,
Yeah.
and-
Like they're kind of like the forgotten shonens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Degree Man, what was that Prison Wonderland thing?
Dead
Dead Man
They all
Wonderland.
came around.
That's
that
not
sort of
underrated.
same
That
thing.
show sucks.
No, that's
That's probably correctly rated on the website.
That's exactly
We're like,
where it's probably overrated, actually.
But I love this show. I've read all the manga, which kind of finished last year before.
Oh, wow. Okay,
29 volumes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's been still in production. No one talks about it. I'll give you the little synopsis here. Humans and demons are two sides of the same coin, as Asai and Gena, their respective worlds. The only way to travel between the realms is by the means of possession, like in ghost stories. However, Satan, the ruler of Gena, cannot find a suitable host to possess and therefore remains imprisoned in his world. In a desperate attempt to conquer Asa, he sends his son instead, intending for him to eventually grow into a vessel capable of possession of the Demon King. So
Because he's too powerful, right?
he's too powerful. He's too powerful. So he sends his son, Rin, who's born with a twin brother, Yukio. And then they're raised by a priest in a monastery type thing. And then one day, Rin is attacked by a demon, and this whole world opens up. He finds out his father is actually a legendary exorcist. I can't spoil it because people might not have seen it. But something happens, and he eventually gets pushed off into a Harry Potter style school for exorcists, where he finds out his brother, who's been there for a while, is actually going to be his teacher. So you've got that, back and forth rivalry of the brothers and stuff. It's just a great world.
It is.
Even you learn about all the different types of exorcists. So there's Rin is just going to be a guy who eventually just pulls a sword. But you've got little people who read passages from the Bible, and a certain passage will work for a certain type of demon. Then you got his brother who uses guns and herbalism and holy waters and stuff. I love it. I think it's great.
So there's 2 seasons, and a third season's coming out.
That's why I want to talk about it, because the third one's coming
in January.
Yeah. The problem with the first season is they ran out of source material very quickly. So the first 16 episodes are actually based on the manga. Mm-hmm. Episodes 17 to 25 are written by the studio. And that's where it kind of fell apart. It's a filler.
It does.
And they try to conclude the story in those 6 or 7, 8, 10 episodes, which was never going to be the ending, but everyone assumes that's the ending.
Yeah.
But then season 2 comes in, ignores that ending, and just continues on with the story. So it's kind of a confusing narrative, because the story is ended at the end of season 1, but then it picks up again, ignoring that. It's bizarre.
It's a mess.
You know what? Modern anime watchers do not know the pain of fillers.
Yeah, dude.
There is still some fillers out there, of course.
Yeah,
but nothing oh my God, Naruto is mostly filler.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so unhinged. And I think and you got to admire Black Clover for catching up to the source material and then just going, nah, we're not making it. We'll wait.
Slow
the
down.
filler are mostly going.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also just an anime original ending, which used to happen all the time as well. They catch up, obviously the original Full Metal Alchemist, of course, before Brotherhood. It was the same thing. They were just let's just make it up.
Let's see what happens.
Trigun,
Kills the devil.
Yeah.
They just get up and make up their own shit. And I have watched that first season of Blue Exorcist, and I really liked it. Up and the opening episode, I will say,
Yeah, it's good.
is a banger. Is a bang. His father, who's the paladin, man, one of the most badass characters in.
When he comes into when his son's getting fucked up by the demon, he just slowly walks in. He's reciting lines from the Bible.
It's iconic.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. And when he gets possessed, and oh my God, man.
Yeah.
It's a really good show, but again, difficult to recommend because of that madness that ensues after episode 16. I remember watching it being like, what the fuck is this? And then it ended. And then I started watching the second season years ago. And I remember just being like, the hell's happening?
Yeah.
I gave up. I was like, I guess Blue Exorcist is done. So it's a shame, because I wouldn't mind watching it. You know what?
Go back.
I'll go back and
Give
watch
it a crack.
I must say, you inspired me to maybe read it. That's how I feel.
The manga's really good. The movie is really good as well.
It's a movie too.
The movie is really good. It's a very visually interesting movie, but it's also very cute, and it's very good. Yeah.
It's a good world. You're right. It's just
solid
Harry Potter
world.
meets Supernatural meets anime.
Yeah. And there's a cute
Great.
cat in it as well. Everyone loves cute cats.
The cat.
His
That was
father's
my
cat.
favorite part.
I think it's maybe the best show ever made.
Yeah.
It's so underrated.
Remember the principal being super mysterious and kind of
But he was kind of like a Willy Wonka-esque mad
very
character.
Willy Wonka-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, with weird umbrellas and stuff, and just appear going,
It's a good show.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of Soul Eater vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Over the
Soul
top
Eater
world.
Can we
is
argue it's underrated, Soul Eater?
no, it's pretty well rated.
All
People
right.
fucking love it. A terrible
true.
ending. Terrible ending. But that's
Also, anime original ending.
yeah. But
Anime
also the
original ending,
manga I
same
don't
thing.
think is much better anyway.
No.
But people are talking.
Everyone's like, my manga's worse. Well, great.
But no, Soul Eater is one of those shows that deserves a redo for sure.
Yep, same guy who made Fire Force. God damn it. Anyway, that's another anime which is just could have been good. You know what I mean? You're like, what a
I
world.
like 99% of that anime.
Yeah, until not Mackie,
What's the
What's her
cat
name?
lady?
Cat
thingy?
Lady, yeah.
Take her out. And maybe the potato episodes.
There's
Where they go to China.
There's more
you're
than a
like-
couple of issues in Fire Force. More than a few.
I can't wait for it to come back.
I'll watch it. But
It's got the best sound editing of any.
That is a very good call.
The sound editing in that is phenomenal.
It does so many things right.
Yeah, but then
and so many wrong.
But then someone trips over and boobs fall out. Like, just,
out of nowhere.
Fuck?
Just like in the middle of like a really intense. Anyway, we've talked about Fire Force enough. All right, who's got another one? Charlie, one of your Shoujo side.
This one is called Skip Beat. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast.
I don't even know what this is.
But I kind of am shocked I haven't because this had such a place in my heart in high school. And the manga is still going and has been going like since I reckon 2004 and it's still ongoing. And I don't think the two love interests have even kissed yet. Like I think I keep on checking in on it occasionally.
One Piece,
like it is. It fucking is. Like I'm always just like, what's happening? And it's just still going. This is classic shoujo. This isn't shoujo.
Okay, it's a shoujo.
So Skip Beat is. I've got some rankings for you. Rank number 507. So not too bad. And its popularity is 874. So Skip Beat, I'll give you a synopsis and I'll talk about why I like this show. Day in, day out, Kyoko Megami works multiple jobs to support her childhood friend, Showa, in his rise to stardom as an idol. She never complains about her way of life as she is deeply infatuated with him and would go to the ends of the world for him. However, her heart is broken when she overhears Shao talk about how he views her as nothing more than a maid he cares little for. Angered over being used, Kyoko flies into a rage and swears to get revenge on her former crush by entering the world of showbiz to surpass him. Joining the relentless and unforgiving entertainment industry proves to be a challenge, as she continuously meets people who force her out of her comfort zone. But for the sake of vengeance, Kyoko is determined to push herself and rise to the top. So,
there's a lot going on.
Not really. Basically, she is in love with this guy. And she's been working all these jobs trying to support his idol career. Mm-hmm. The minute he gets famous, he's like, ugh, like I hate her. I've just been using her. She's like basically my personal mate and she's so annoying. And she overhears it. And then she's a fucking hilarious character. The turn on her, like her rage is, what I really enjoy is that like her female rage is so good. Like she just leans into it and basically is like, nah, fuck this. Like I've suffered in silence for too long. I'm going to take you down. So she decides to enter the showbiz industry with like literally no talent for anything. She's like, I don't know what I'll do. But then turns out she ends up being quite a gifted actor and she goes into and joins this like agency. And this show is so fucking funny. Like she is absolutely hilarious. There's like really great female friendship in it where it's set up where you think that they're going to be like rivals and then they end up being best friends and really support each other. The love interest is not like there's a love triangle, but not really because he's more the antagonist, the main guy. But he realizes that he obviously when she starts she actually gains momentum and gets famous and he's like, fuck. But the world famous movie star Ren, who is the main love interest, they have a nice relationship too. It's this manga, me and my best friend in high school were absolutely obsessed with it. One of my favorite, it's just so funny. You kind of expect, she goes to this audition to join the agency. And I just remember there's like a thing where they have to like, the bit of the audition is you have to answer the phone in like a moving way and like improvise a phone call. And all these girls are doing is like really cutesy things. And she just like picks up the phone and then just starts like screaming down it with like rage and like pretending it's him. And like then she gets attention because they're like, maybe she can harness these emotions. And but like, because I was wanting to be an actor at the time that I was watching and reading this, I genuinely found myself really invested in the show and her journey and how like hard she worked and what she did and how she kind of became a better actor was actually like quite realistic and quite well paced. I mean, it's very slow paced considering I actually just don't think they've kissed, which is insane. It's been
how many years?
I think that the anime came out in 2007.
Holy shit.
So, and the manga was earlier than that. So, yeah. Anyway, highly recommend giving this on Crunchyroll. And sometimes I watch it because I'm like, that's right, Skip Beat. It's very good for like a younger audience. It's definitely not going to like change your life. But I think it's a pretty satisfying watch and it's funny and it ticks that box. And I'm just really grateful that it even is still talked about at all because, I mean, it's still similar to Blue Exorcist, like that just finished. This one's still going.
Yeah.
But there's a small but dedicated fan base to Skip Beat.
Dozens of us.
There are dozens of us. And people hoping that there will be a second season. But I don't think there will be. So that's okay. We'll always have the manga, which will never end. We'll always have the manga. But yeah, she's fucking funny. She's one of my favorite protagonists. She's ridiculous and hates everything and is so funny.
That's
so
funny.
give it a go. Skip
There you
beat.
go.
Skip beat. Not like Skip and Loafer, which is
That's also on my
well-rated.
list.
Skip to Loafer.
Skip and Loafer is on my, it's not that highly rated.
Really?
That's on my list. I'll get to my big list.
Okay, we'll get there later. So we'll get.
I don't have a big list. I'm going to make a big
Charlie's
list.
list of mid. But
List of mid, they're all good.
Charlie's list of mid.
I'm sorry, couldn't help it. All right, so this is my way of like cheating the parameters of Charlie's parameters because I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while.
Not gonna
Technically,
be-
it doesn't hit the parameters, but it is underrated in my opinion.
It's
But
not
my God,
Legend of
what
the
is
Galactic
this? If
Heroes
it's-
or some shit.
I was
Is
going
it?
to say, if it's Legends of the
It's
Galactic
Legends
Heroes,
of the
I'm
Galactic
going
Heroes.
to kill you. I'm actually going to kill you.
I really wish that I'd
I'm going to look at where that
Legend
ranking
of
is.
the in this essay. I will argue.
The
No,
most like hyped anime ever.
most-
Everyone's
the
like,
undisputed king
oh my
of
God.
anime. No, okay.
I was
so,
like, can you tell me what ranking this one is and I'll try and guess what it is? What ranking is
okay.
it?
So this is ranked 959 and a mouse score of 7.8 and a popularity ranking of 1620. So it's pretty low.
No, that fits the parameters.
Yeah, no, this does. But it's a spin-off of a show
Oh my God.
that doesn't fit the parameters because it's quite popular.
Oh, that's okay. They're different shows.
Yes.
I know what this is. Yeah, they're different shows.
Yes.
Boruto.
I'm not. We will get someone on to defend Boruto at some point.
There's a
we actually have a
heap-
list of people.
there's
It's
people.
surprising.
There
There
are dozens of them.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
I need to find a Skip Beat fan club to come on. We can do,
Go to
I'm gonna
Reddit.
do a new podcast, which is just like, will Skip Beat ever end? Basically, an investigation.
No, this is Sinbad No Bouken. Now, this is a
I don't know what this is
spin-off of Magi or Magi.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Sinbad.
Magi,
Yeah.
depending on how you want to
fuck, okay.
pronounce it. It depends, but I guess in English, pronunciation is Magi. Kingdom and Labyrinth of Magic. That's the first season is Labyrinth, the second season is Kingdom of Magic. I actually would argue that show is super underrated, but it does rank quite highly on Mal, and I suppose it is talked about, but we're all waiting for a third season. But it also has a lot of detractors, does Magi. But I'll probably have to explain that a little bit first. But this show follows Sinbad, which takes place 15 years before the events of the original series. And it chronicles Sinbad's youth as a dungeon conqueror. Now, I'll explain that in a minute. But along the way, the budding adventurer and merchant will face many obstacles, but anything's possible with the power of a king. So what does that mean? Well,
An undisputed king.
actually, Sinbad is the undisputed king. That's actually like 100% what he is. So like, think about this
No
show.
wonder you
before
love this show.
I do. I actually love it a lot. Before I talk about,
Is it Sinbad as in Sinbad?
so basically the whole concept of Magi is that it is based off the Arabian Nights
Yeah.
stories. But yeah, so Sinbad, and I'll hit it up here right now. So Magi. 14 years ago, mysterious buildings called dungeons started to rise in various places around the world. Within these dungeons, powerful beings called djinns rule over. When a person successfully conquers the dungeon, the djinn offers their immense strength in the form of metal vessels, recognizing him or her as a worthy king candidate. See why I'm loving this shit. Adventurers from many empires and kingdoms venture into the dungeons in search of their bountiful treasures and the power of the djinns. However, to travel through them is not an easy task, and only Magi, legendary magicians who choose kings and develop countries, can guide people through. So Magi's based on Aladdin is the Magi, and he's like this sort of really simple kid, and he meets Alibaba. And again, not a Prince of Thieves in this, but Alibaba's basically this really idealistic, young, like impressionable guy who thinks he can just go take on the world.
Yeah,
and of course, the world is much more complicated than that. But he conquers dungeons with Aladdin. They meet this girl called Morgana, who's at the time she's a slave to this like horrible person, and she kicks things. A lot of kicking power.
That's
Anyway,
cool.
She's actually sick. She's one of the best characters in the whole show. But they form a triumvirate. They're the three, like, sort of Mikasa, and Eren vibes. They're your triumvirate. But Sinbad is basically Gojo. So imagine if Gojo, instead of the hidden inventory arc in Jujutsu Kaisen being 4 or 5 episodes, it was a full season. That is Sinbad.
Oh, okay.
So Sinbad is like his backstory, but like he is broken. Like in Sinbad, in Magi, he is the most busted character. Like he just is a god. He's like, so Alibaba, spoiler, conquers a dungeon at the start. It gets a metal vessel, super cool with the Dijin. Sinbad's conquered like 14. Like he's just dripping in metal vessels. And like when he decides to, he just fucks anyone up. Like, so it's kind of weird with the power scaling thing. So he's literally like Gojo. He's just so broken. But we go back and find out his backstory. That's what this show's about. And I would still argue that Magi is super underrated. Again, doesn't fit our parameters. But Sinbad, I had a really good time because it's always fun to go and learn about how the broken person became broken. You know, like so OP, overpowered for those who don't know what that means. But basically, yeah, Sinbad No Bouken, fun little backstory, and also leads into Magi, which I think more people should watch and talk about. Doesn't get brought up much in the anime community, but is pretty high up on the male lists. So yeah, Sinbad, if you want to check it out, and then Magi, both Labyrinth and Kingdom of Magic, really cool shows. I'd argue underrated, and check it out.
I think they are underrated. Actually.
I agree. I think
yeah.
Magi is not talked about. It's a classic shonen. Also set in a really interesting world, like the Arabian Nights tales done by anime, very video game centric with like conquering the dungeons, which all have like different levels and different tests to pass and whatnot. It ticks a lot of boxes. I think it's a really cool show.
There you go.
So yeah, but Sinbad No Bouken, if I'm gonna fit the parameters. Graham, what do you got, mate?
Sort of bleaches at like number 700.
It's like, oh, it's so weird.
An underrated unknown jewel. Fucking Bleach.
It's funny. The 1,000-Year Blood War was in the top 10 though.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's so good.
really
Really
good.
good. It's top tier. So it was a toss up. It was a toss up between Sk8 the Infinity.
Yes.
That's on my list too. Yeah.
Obviously.
But we'll probably
All
all
of
talk
us.
about it as a collective, or another Bones studio anime, Space Dandy, which I've spoke about before.
Yes, of course.
So sitting at a 7.88 with 150,000 users.
Yep.
787.
Really?
So a lot higher than Blue Exorcist.
Yes.
A lot higher, surprisingly higher. But we spoke about this before. He's a dandy in space. He's a space dandy.
Very music
Any,
heavy.
any
end.
questions?
The end.
I'll be taking no questions.
I'll read the synopsis. Dandy is a groovy, pompadour-wearing man who explores the stars in search of strange aliens for money, desiring to visit his favorite place in the universe, Boobies, the best diner in all the cosmos.
Hell yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much the whole thing. It's kind of like a Rick and Morty anime style venture, different adventure every week with Space Dandy, who's a wacky character. He's kind of in over his head every kind of episode, but just really loves to go to this restaurant and needs the money to fuel the habit. That's pretty much it.
It's Shinichiro Watanabe, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's underrated compared to his other works.
Yeah.
Compared to Cowboy Bebop. and
Compared to Cowboy Bebop.
Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo.
Yeah.
But
Even
it's super
Kill Slow.
fun.
Underrated
Yeah.
too?
Sorry,
No,
say
it's
again?
very well
It's
rated.
much more
Hugely
than Space Dandy, yeah.
Popular.
Yeah.
Wait, one did you just say? I missed that.
Kids on the Slope.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not
We might talk about that music episode.
This
Actually.
is true.
But it's super fun. It's, bright and colorful. It's full of wacky characters. His companion is like a space cat type
That's
thing.
right.
It's obsessed with like social media and stuff like that. Like,
It's
fun.
It's a pretty irreverent show too.
yeah,
It's pretty
it
wild.
looks
but-
gorgeous. Like it's
It
a
does.
beautiful looking show, and it does that kind of psychedelic sort of trippy space horror kind of vibe. I love it.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone talks about it.
You're right. It doesn't get
Feels
talked
like
about
it's just
much.
me talking about it at this point. So,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
agree.
only what, a season, 2 seasons? 2 seasons, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was 2 seasons and done. So it's a real quick watch as well. Super fun. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty and that type of stuff, it's definitely worth your time.
I agree. Very underrated. Probably Watanabe's least known work.
Yeah, you're wearing the shirt. You're not wearing a Space Dandy shirt.
No, I'm not. That'd be cool though.
I would love one.
I should get one.
Mm.
All right, Charlie, what do you got?
All right, I've got this list that I'm going to read out because I had honorable mentions. So Skip and Loafer, as
There
we
it
talked
is.
about, which I have talked about recently, and it was actually one of my anime of the seasons, I think 2 seasons ago now, or maybe 1 season
It
ago.
was.
2 seasons ago.
You and Gerald Lillywhite
Love
are
this show.
obsessed with it. Gerald Lillywhite described this thing as a fucking 10 out of 10.
It's gorgeous.
That's a wild statement.
So the rank is 438, so it's actually pretty high, really. And the popularity rank is 1,052. So
Wow.
it's like not very popular, but it is highly regarded, is how I would say that works. I think, yes, we've talked about it's about a really plucky country girl who moves from like a really rural, remote area, Japan, to Tokyo to finish her studies so she can fulfill her dream of becoming a politician, so she can basically, she wants to like make rules and wants to come back and make some change in her country town. And she's just really ambitious, and it's just very wholesome. And it's all about friendship, and it's like it's kind of like you think it's going to be a romance, but it's not. Like it's actually not at all. It's about friendship, and it's about finding yourself, and it's about and it's just so wholesome, and it's great characters, and it's like it's just honestly, it's such a good watch. I really love this show, so check it out. Let's drive that popularity rank higher again. This one is Yona of the Dawn. I've talked about this. This show is extremely underrated for how good it is. So it is technically I guess people call it shoujo. It's just not really. It's honestly like an action, revenge story. So Yona is a princess who gets betrayed, and her family gets slaughtered basically, and her kingdom gets overtaken. She gets exiled, or she runs away, and then she basically comes back to try and take her kingdom back, and along the way has some insanely great character development. So what I love about Yona of the Dawn is that we've got a character who starts out as someone who doesn't really know or have much confidence because she's just been a pampered princess her whole life. And then she has to learn how to be a warrior and how to become totally badass. And she does. And it's like you take this journey with her, and she's a really likable character. And there's a romance story that's really fantastic. The manga is great. Only got one season, I think, and people have been screaming for a season 2. There's a huge fan base for Yona of the Dawn. I think it's very underrated. Talked about it before on this podcast. Go and give it a watch. Sk8 the Infinity, which we talked about. Rank number 585.
Criminal.
And
That's
popularity
outrageous.
394. So
Okay.
there, it's not so bad. This is
People know.
we talk about this enough.
People have taste now.
People have, yeah.
We love it.
Oh, love
Sk8 the
it.
Infinity. You know what? We probably have a whole episode dedicated to it. But
I could
Seasons.
write a PhD on how good Sk8 the Infinity.
do you want to give a synopsis quickly?
Oh man, I mean, guy lives for skateboarding. Has this new guy from Canada rock up to his school,
A snowboarder.
a snowboarder, who he ends up getting into Langer, who he ends up getting into skateboarding, but very quickly becomes significantly better than Raki. It's Raki,
Yeah.
isn't it? Raki. But there is, of course, this late night skate competition.
Downhill.
Downhill, down lots of hills.
Well, is it, some parts of it aren't even downhill.
Unless you're that person who can skate
Uphill.
uphill.
Yeah.
The Luchador of Love, who of course, the
Might be
Matador of
the-
Love. Sorry,
Might be the best anime character, villain of all time.
Ludicrous villain of all time.
Does he dive out of a helicopter at one point?
Yes,
that's
like a bunch of
That's like his
times.
introduction. This is the most extra show, yes.
Oh.
So they have this underground skating ring called Sk8 the Infinity,
Sk8 the
right?
Infinity, yeah.
And it's like two people race down a course, and whoever gets there the fastest wins. But it's all
no
dangerous.
holds barred, anything goes. You ever played Road Rage as a kid? In that, it's just fucking bonkers, man. And everyone's a different character doing crazy shit. But Langer essentially, it becomes really, really good at it. But also, there's a lot of queer elements in the show, a lot of undertones. I think it's very
Oh, well, you mean the tango, downhill tango on the skateboard?
That is
No,
the one
he's
part of it that's slightly
problematic.
problematic.
That's
I'm not gonna lie.
problematic. That is
There
No,
are
but the
problematic-
relationship between the two main characters is
Yes.
actually beautiful.
It
And
is.
I
It's
think
understated too. But
Yeah.
there is a really great relationship between the two characters, which is quite
which could easily be
clearly be a BL, a boy love thing.
I think it could be read as
It can be read as such.
I think and I think
I think it's pretty obvious. But,
yeah, it's nice.
but yeah, which
They
is
just
cool.
love each
But
other.
there is a character who is the aforementioned Matador of Love, also really problematic character. So not perfect. Maybe is the reason it's rated where it is. But sometimes anime blinkers come up and you're like, this is madness, and I'm here for it.
I think
But-
it's so ridiculous that you can kind of be like, oh well, you don't read it as like
yeah, it's super. Yeah, it's not without its problems.
you're not
but-
like this is how people should act. You're
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like,
he's
what is
fucked.
going
Yeah,
on?
who is this fucking lunatic? We love Sk8 the Infinity
Good
for all of its
shit.
flaws. We love it.
I've got one that I talked about on our horror episode. Ghost Hunt is
yes.
1045 rank and the popularity rank of 1020.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, old anime. I've talked about it. Sort of got like an X-Filesy vibe, but it's like a girl in high school ends up essentially having to help out a famous paranormal detective in her spare time, as you do.
Happens a lot. though.
She's like, oh no, I guess I have to work for this. And he's also happens to be her age and kind of hot. So, there's kind of like they're like, oh no. I'm like, what are these like, you know, prodigy ghost hunters. But yeah, it's like a procedural, I would say. It's like a monster of the week kind of vibe, kind of creepy. I find it really good, and I think it's just quite a unique anime. I don't think there's many like it, and as we actually talked about in the horror episode, there's not many horror animes, surprisingly, which is I find interesting. There's obviously a couple of classics, Elfen Lied, you've got Shiki, you've got all these ones, which are also probably, some of them could be arguably underrated. Elfen Lied's not underrated. That's very famous, and
It's
also
very famous.
also not that good, I'll be honest.
You're gonna upset a lot of people with that, but yes.
Oh, really? Okay. I guess maybe. Look, I don't know that kind of edgelord stuff. I think I just got over. Maybe when I was younger, I was probably more into it. Anyway, next up is MF Ghost, which is at 1,000 rank 1,231.
Even cars at all. It lied to us.
Popularity rank.
We lied to ourselves.
Popularity rank 3,249.
Exactly where it should be. It's so fucking average.
MF Ghost.
It's the middest show ever made. Oh, God.
Exactly where it should be.
Exactly where it belongs.
And this one is a deep cut, and I can't even remember if it's good, but I was like, holy shit. Did you ever watch Did you watch Get Backers?
Oh, fuck me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so Get Backers is rank 1,508, popularity 1,753.
Wow.
Now,
That's
I'm
way back
certain
machine.
that this show probably really is not great, but
No.
but when I was in high school, this and that show Black Cat I used to love.
Yeah.
Black
But
Cat.
now I'm like, I don't know if they're actually good or if it's nostalgia.
Is
or
this
if
the
we're talking about-
nostalgia episode? in
Honestly, we
disguise?
just did it accidentally.
We've done a nostalgia episode 2.0.
Get
It's like
Backers is
Black
about.
Lagoon as well. Like,
Black
I'm like, is
Lagoon.
Black Lagoon good or was I just a horny teenager?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty highly rated though.
Is
People,
it?
people love Black Lagoon. Yeah. Get Backers is about two guys who work at an agency and they get things back for you.
They get it back.
So
It's in the title.
Get Backers, and they have powers, and they're all like, you know, sexy anime guys with cool powers, and they work in this agency, and they're like always strapped for cash, just trying to get stuff back for people. And you know what? I think it's great. Look, I think it's one of those things that just made me laugh. I put it on the list because I was like, remember Get Backers?
That's
A
way,
deep
way,
cut.
way back.
Wow.
Yeah. There's also Welcome to the NHK, which I think is underrated.
That is a good call.
Um,
Good show.
It is a good show. It's quite a. Have we talked about this before?
Not we were going to once and we didn't, but we might have mentioned it briefly. It's about a hikikomori, which means a shut-in, which is a very social phenomenon, particularly in Japan, but it's been argued that it's now disseminating out across the world. But yeah, essentially, I mentioned this in depth in our Isekai episode, which is a lot of the time the protagonists from those are hikikomori or NEETs, N-E-E-T, not currently employed in education, not employed
Today.
in education or training.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basically, Welcome to the NHK really explores the mindset of a hikikomori, and it's quite interesting actually. I think it's just
He's also. This is a people do know of this. I think it's a recency, but it's like an older anime. I think it came out in 2006.
2006. Wow.
Yeah. So Welcome to NHK came out in 2006. So it is an older one.
Big time.
It's also ranked number 244, and
Oh.
its popularity, I think, is around that as well. So it does fit into the parameters we're talking about. But it is still quite a highly regarded anime. Slice of life, but it really does explore something that is quite fascinating and quite heavy as well. So it deals with lots of mental health issues in it. He also, the main character, is like obsessed with conspiracy theories as well.
Yeah.
And believes that he's being watched by the NHK, which is like this whole kind of thing. And throughout the story, he meets a character that helps him try to like regain power over his life again. So I don't know if I need to rewatch it again, but I think it's one of those things that I think it is rated where it should be. Like people do remember it well, but I think people are just forgetting about it because it was 2006, which is so long ago.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that kind of story, there's a lot that have come after it. I think it started a trend of that kind of thing. You know,
also dealing with pretty heavy content matter like a fair while ago. You know what I mean? Like the hikikomori thing, yes, been such a phenomenon in Japan for a while, but definitely something that wasn't really being talked about. And the proliferation of isekai was not happening in 2006.
Yeah.
Which is where the kind of, the NEET and the Hikikomori character started to be represented, but obviously through a fantasy escapism lens. So pretty interesting that it came out that early.
Yeah, it's obviously kind of almost ahead of its time in terms
Absolutely.
of that. But yeah, that is a good one.
I'm going to knock out one before we finish up. And it's one that's like, I think probably is reasonably fairly rated. I think it's still definitely underrated show, but it's called ACCA 13.
Oh.
And so ACCA, a national body of the Kingdom of Dowa that provides public services to the citizens of the country, was established as a part of a peace settlement between the King of Dowa and the 13 states of the country during a revolt. 100 years later, Dowa is in a period of unprecedented peace, due in part to the ACCA system. However, rumors of a coup d'etat start to surface. Gene Otis, the second in command of the inspection department of ACCA, is charged with inspecting all 13 state branches. What will he discover as he performs his audit? So, political thriller, mystery, lots of kind of fascism overtones, the kind of like military police coming in and seeing who's trying to disrupt the status quo and it's very reminiscent of sort of Third Reich, even the very Nazi-esque,
Uniforms
the
and stuff,
uniforms
yeah.
and whatnot, and the character design. But it starts to unravel. There's more to it than you think. And of course, it's built on a house of cards. It's a domino effect. But it's just a really cool show in respect that it does something a little bit different again, in that it's just a really kind of heady political thriller.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't think it's like extraordinary, but I remember watching it being like, that was good.
I remember it had a lot of hype when it came out.
It did.
And people were really excited about it. But then I think a lot of people were off put by its pace.
It's slow.
We said it's slow, and it is, as you like, it's a more of a talking political drama as opposed to like an action series that people were kind of expecting it to be.
Yes.
I think people were kind of looking and thinking it was going to be like a Code Geass or something like that, like that kind of action packed. So a lot of people didn't like it, and it got quite, I think it is very underrated because people have then in hindsight kind of come back and been like, maybe that show was good.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
2017 came out. So yeah, but I like it. I think ACCA 13 is a really good show. And yeah, super underrated. So if you want to see a sort of heady conspiratorial political drama, ACCA 13. Another one I'll put on the list, which is probably a little bit of a cheat, but Death Parade. I think it's probably reasonably well rated. I haven't actually checked. I just wanted to throw it in there because I don't think it's talked about much. Anime original, essentially set in kind of purgatory. Bartender has to test people's lives as they come through. Very stylistic, very cool, very psychological, very cerebral, deals with a lot of, people's regrets and what they did in their life, and, the consequences of their actions. Because they run these games in this bar called Quinn Deckim. And the bartender runs these games based on the people's lives, and a lot of things get twists and turned, and like what someone is presenting as their life turns out it wasn't like that at all. It's actually a really cool show. And I would argue it is underrated.
Yeah, okay.
I think a lot of anime originals are somewhat underrated, actually. Like, I think Akadama Drive is underrated.
Akadama Drive is underrated. 91 Days even.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably gets a fair bit of love, but I would still say we haven't actually talked about that on the show, but we will at some point.
Also, is it Sonny Boy underrated?
Sonny Boy is criminally underrated.
Yeah. And
really good show.
Yeah, that's pretty low down as well.
It is. It was too weird for people. It was too weird. I mean, we talked about it with Forgotten Relics.
Yeah.
In our interview with him and the YouTuber Forgotten Relics, because stylistically it's quite extraordinary. Shingo Natsume, it's his brainchild, it's his baby, who was, of course, the director of the first season of One Punch Man, amongst many other things.
Highly underrated show.
Yes. But no, Sonny Boy's really cool. It's kind of a not Lord of the Flies, but Lost kind of vibe. These students end up getting lost on an island and all this crazy weird shit, but it's super stylistic, super expressionistic. He really messes with the art form, messes with storytelling. It's a really it's a mindfuck of a show.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
You know what's really not underrated, sorry, is Wonder Egg Priority. I was trying to think of the other one, and I was like, that could have been on this list.
It
but,
was so close.
It earned its place of being
disaster
in the middle of people being like,
one of the worst endings of anything ever made. That show had so many good ideas. It started off so well. We were talking about it in one of our season check-ins or whatever it was back in the day. But then I remember they ran into production problems, which happens all the time. It's happened to Zom 100.
Mhm.
Hasn't finished. Still 3 episodes are coming out on Christmas Day.
And I, for one, welcome these Christmas presents.
Christmas gifts are bestowed.
Of someone I do.
bestowed. I'll be watching it.
Sorry, I cannot spend time with the family.
Excuse
Someone
me, I've got
else.
things to watch. Out of the way. Merry Christmas. But yeah, the production value, production issues, Wonder Egg Priority started off really cool, was a really fascinating, interesting show. Then at the end, they actually stopped and they had a huge hiatus and then came back with the final episode. Wish they didn't. Would have been better if it was unfinished.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. Like everything that they like had built up, they just threw in the bin. It was a disaster. So yeah, no, don't watch Wonder Egg Priority.
Damn.
It's a shame.
It's a shame. It had such a strong start. Yeah. And but I think in general, and this is kind of interesting to explore, anime originals, people tend to stay away from. People really love an adapted one from anime, and I don't know why. Like,
Yeah, they're rare.
That's source material. Like, you know the source material.
yeah,
Yes.
Believe in the source material.
Yes.
true. But yeah, I mean, like, there's been obviously some
Huge ones.
like psychopaths,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they hey,
Code Geass.
true.
Anime original.
Hell yeah,
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sk8 the Infinity, I believe, is an anime
it
original.
Yeah.
certainly is.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
You know
just
what?
criminally underrated.
Criminally underrated.
It's
Akadama
actually
Drive.
It's actually pretty highly rated.
Is
Sk8
it?
the Infinity. I can't.
It's like
Um,
Full Metal Alchemist. Is it?
Good.
And it's getting things.
exciting news. Mal fans. Freerun is still on top of the list.
Yeah.
Beating-
At the time of recording, yes.
You know, there's always a couple of like something will come out and they'll be hype and it'll go ahead of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which has been the reigning champion for
over 10 years.
over 10 years. But Freerun's been there for quite a while, which is good.
It's a great show.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is not the most popular one. Popular is as in the most people have voted for Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brotherhood's still there. Also, like there's like 6 Gintama seasons in the top 10 or something. It's
Man,
like crazy.
people love Gintama. Dude.
They
I have
do.
tried so many times. I did it in the comedy episode. I
Not for you.
I just can't. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried like 3 separate times.
It's
It was like-
overrated for you.
Well, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't find it funny. So, like,
There you go.
I don't know, but I know it has big. I've just great. And the comments are going to be all attacking me,
Yep.
Gintama fans. But it's look, from what I understand, before you Gintama people come for me, is that it has huge ebbs and flows. So it's like that there are serious arcs and there are comedy arcs, but like. Again, it's one of those classic things like, oh, the first 30 episodes are really bad. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
too many.
That's a
That's
lifetime.
too many for me, like now
Yeah.
at my age, you know.
I gotta look at TikTok.
I just can't do it. Like, anyway, I don't know. I digress. But yeah, there's a lot of Gintama. Do you know what else is in that top 10?
Legend of the Galactic
Thank
Heroes.
you very much. Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called something. It's called Ginga Au
You know
Sentetsu, I think.
what else was number 1 for a bit?
Fruits Basket.
Yes, thank you. Some of those mid-girl shows that Sam said that I like. I think that I've proven a point
Mid-top
though.
10.
When you look at a series and you look at like what's popular and what's not, it is it's obviously just overwhelmingly shonen, that kind of thing.
course.
So it's
Because of the dudes.
yeah, it's nice to I feel like a lot of the I mean like the fact that Skip and Loafer is so low on popularity is
That's it. Do you know what else?
depressing.
Well, thank you very much. As always, this has, of course, been our underrated anime series. So quite a lot in there.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. I mean, it's the thing. As we've mentioned many times, a rich tapestry. It is endless.
Didn't even
Thousands of anime.
Endless.
Yeah, I'd scrolled for so long.
I just scrolled for 30 minutes there. I'm like,
The amount
Wow.
of times that we're like, oh God, how are we going to keep this podcast going?
Yeah.
Turns out not that hard. Lots of stuff.
Should we do an overrated episode because
yes.
people are
Oh,
going to
that's
get mad?
good. My God, we are just.
That's going to be probably easier to do than
That'll
underrated.
be easier, but we're just going to end up just going to turn off comments on be attacked.
Gintama fans are coming for
They're
you
already coming
again.
for me, so fucking hell. It's mid. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm so glad that I got to talk about Skip Beat. you know?
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it's
never heard of it,
well,
which is great.
give it a go, guys.
Yeah.
Give
I'm
it a
glad I got
go.
Sinbad and Paranoia Agent across the line.
Yeah, Paradise Kiss, which I mean, people are going to be like, that's very famous. It is, but I think it's underrated in terms of it's not really. We should probably be like, it's not things that aren't talked about much. That fit that like
things
because
are not
it's
ubiquitous or
and
talked
yeah,
about
just a
much.
bit older anime for you guys to check out.
You
You know,
youngins out there.
have a
Go watch Vampire Hunter D.
you know what's like really
1989.
Really good.
you know what's
Banger.
underrated
What?
on fucking Mal is Helsing.
Oh,
Super underrated, eh?
well,
It's a
I was
classic.
like,
It's a
what?
classic.
I was so shocked by that because I was like, back in the day, that was considered like
That was
That
it.
was top tier.
that was it. And now I'm like, I think it was well and truly quite far down.
Yeah, but against
I
the
was
recency
like,
bias thing.
wow.
Also, yeah, it doesn't look at the time. It looked amazing. Now you go back and look at it, you think, oh, it looks a bit shit. But you know, it's a good show though. Helsing's great, a classic, absolute
It's just
classic
a great
of the genre.
design and a great protagonist. And
Yeah,
that, like
he looks
that's
so
sort of that's
The red trench coat.
I don't know. He always reminded me of like John Lennon or something like that.
Yeah.
Demented
Just
John
with
Lennon.
a with white in Africa.
Alucard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Of course, you can find us on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Hopefully you're watching us on YouTube. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Makes a huge difference. Surprisingly amount of difference. So if you've got the time, rate us 5 stars. Give us a bit of love because it really does go a long way. You can find us, of course, on Patreon if you really like what we're doing. We've got some special offers over there. We're only going to be increasing our time over there. And honestly, guys, thank you so much for joining us on our underrated anime episode.
On our underrated podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is there a podcast ranking yet? Where are we on that?
Oh,
It's called
God.
Chartable. It does exist.
It
Oh,
does
shit.
exist.
That's it.
And we are ranked
Right down
number
there.
one.
We were number 1 in South Africa once.
That was pretty good.
That was a wild time. Anyway, we digress. Catch you next time. Thanks very much.